So here we are, back at it again, and we'd like to raise some topics that we are desperately interested in. Uh, the
Oh yeah.
overarching one, I believe, of this main particular podcast episode is artificial intelligence. And if you'd like to be the one to rip open the cap of this can of worms, by all means, go ahead, man.
So welcome again to the podcast, guys. Thanks for listening. Uh, Today we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence. We both picked this out for our second podcast. This is a very weighted, intricate topic, and we are not going to get to everything, obviously, but it's something that I want to talk to Freddy about, and I find a lot of interest in this topic myself.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. That's great, man. And when it comes out to artificial intelligence, even because of how big of a topic it is, we can even break it down into different episodes. Is really, if we feel that we haven't been able to tackle everything that we wanted to say in this particular episode, it's not a big deal, mainly because we'll always find something to say and we can always bring it up in future podcast episodes.
Exactly. That's for sure. Always for down, or always an option. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, guys, I'm very excited to talk about this. if,
Yeah, man.
If no one can tell by my voice, but
Yeah, man. It's a very, very exciting topic.
it is. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So, what is artificial intelligence? You want to go ahead and so we picked up a few dictionary. We picked up a few definitions from Google, and we have them sourced here. You'll probably see that in the description if you want to take a look.
Mm-hmm.
These are the definitions we're going off of. You know, when you first type in these definitions in Google, they come up. So, particularly, a lot of people might use this definition, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is AI, Freddy?
So, as far as we track down here, AI is artificial intelligence, which is the theory and development of computer systems being able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision making, and translation between languages, which we got off of Google.
Yes. Sourced. Okay, so yeah, that is the definition of artificial intelligence. I hope we kind of agree there. So it's basically the assistance it's assistance of the technology that normally would require these different different perceptions, like, you know, visual perception, speech, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Human senses, for example. Yes. And then, so I agree with that definition, by the way. I'm all good. And what is general AI? I think this is the one I'm going to really talk about more of, because I think a lot of people have talked about artificial intelligence, but we can talk about that as well.
Yeah. So, would you want to take the stance on reading off what general AI is on, and then I'll question you what your, I guess, gripes are on the particular topic?
Sure, yeah, that sounds good.
For
Okay,
sure.
so according to the wiki, artificial general intelligence is the intelligence of a machine that could successfully perform any intellectual task that a human being can. It is a primary goal of some artificial intelligence research and a common topic in science fiction and future studies.
Okay.
Ooh.
And when it comes down
Also,
to, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's also known as strong AI and full AI.
Gotcha.
Like limitless is what they're talking about.
Yeah. And so, when it comes down to this particular definition of general artificial intelligence, how would you sort of break it down in terms of the layman understanding of what it is trying to portray or convey?
So that's a good question. So basically, general AI needs no human.
Mm-hmm.
It can do everything we can, like think, create new information, new languages, for example, anything. It is the absolute top level AI that you can have.
Mm-hmm.
It is full AI, also known as full AI, for example. It is all-encompassing AI. It's everything. Is that good? Is that layman?
Yeah. So
I
that's pretty
hope.
good. That's pretty good. And to kind of facilitate what you're saying, and what we'll most likely touch upon, general AI, as far as I understand, just from our previous conversation, that general AI allows itself to become a self-learning sort of capacity, meaning that based upon information that it has before that it was taught. For example, what we used in our previous discussion as an example is that if it's fed paradigm or idea A as well as paradigm B, it cannot create a paradigm C, which is completely new information rather than a reiteration of paradigm A and B, meaning that essentially, theoretically, I think your stance, and you can correct me, I'm just trying to give a sort of segue into how you're going to proceed. As far as I understand, general AI, they will do paradigm A plus paradigm B equaling paradigm C. However, realistically speaking, it should be paradigm A plus paradigm B equals paradigm AB, not paradigm C. Is that a good summary of like how you feel upon this particular topic?
That's sort of it. But your second part there, where paradigm A, what we mean by paradigm, any action, any information, it's very abstract what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So these two pieces of information, when you couple them together, when you said, does it equal A plus B? Not necessarily. It's more of combinations of A and B.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be almost everything that humans do, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much 99% is just knowing A and B to get you everything else. But the creation of new information, this is something I cannot agree with. I can't find any example of how this could possibly proceed.
Mm-hmm.
Anything this AI could learn is based on what it was programmed that it could learn. And then you have the self-improving aspect, where you can improve the senses, so to speak, of the AI.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't create new information, I don't think. And so that's my particular gripe. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't, forget AI. I'm very much on the side of we should be afraid of AI, and we should worry about it. We should talk about it on every podcast like we are now.
Mm-hmm.
But this general AI, I don't agree with.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible.
So kind of to facilitate what you're saying and applying it in modern example, is what you're saying that general AI, in all intents and purposes, it is to be utilized in such a way where it is taking care of functions that we would normally be able to take care of, but we may not feel that it is efficient for us to do so. Therefore, we create a system that utilizes AI to take care of previous functions that we would like to depart ourselves from, so that we can do other things that are considerably better, relatively speaking.
So like a self checkout, for example, that's controlled by an AI.
Yeah.
Kind of. But I don't think that necessarily needs a general AI. That could just use a regular AI. That's a specialized task.
Yeah.
So yeah, here's another way to define or distinguish between these two. AI can perform a task very well.
Mm-hmm.
Very well, very well. A general AI can perform any task.
Yeah.
See, this is a distinction. An AI is specialized, but general AI or full AI is not specialized. It doesn't have. It's not good at. The only its specialty is doing everything.
Yeah.
Or conceivably everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have to. Yeah. So like for example, the self checkout, that's an AI.
Yeah.
And that could definitely that replaces being a cashier and no one wants to be a cashier willingly, I think. It just happens to be a job that's better than others, I think.
Yeah. I guess in my example, I was trying to say that theoretically speaking, like what as AI as a whole, we put together functions that are simulated by AI, but it doesn't necessarily, for example, just because an AI is created to be, let's say, the function of a self checkout, therefore replacing one cashier, but it's not necessarily going to be the type of AI where, because it replaced a cashier, which is potential of a person being a cashier, being able to climb the ladder or hierarchy and get promoted, it's nothing like that, is it? It's limited in what it can do as a self-checkout AI.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is it contained in its initial task?
Yeah.
So, like, for example, being a cashier, it can't be a front end, someone who manages cashiers, for example.
Exactly.
It could. It very well can be. But
Okay.
so my argument is more of like the abstract whole of full AI.
Okay.
Because so we'll get into that throughout the podcast, but no, it would definitely be able to become a front end, a manager, and manage the entire store, for example.
Okay.
Just from being a cashier initially, because you can feed it information on what the other employees do, and then it could figure out with its self-improving algorithm.
Yeah. With that though, but that means you're feeding it information. Meaning,
correct, yeah, it would have to figure out. Yeah, it would have to know what managers do to perform the task.
yeah, but it cannot, just based on what it does as the initial, let's say, premise one, where it's being fed information to be a cashier, therefore a self-checkout machine. It cannot generate information that is, relatively speaking, new, that allows it to become a manager sort of role. We have to feed it information to become that.
So long as a manager or any other employee does not interact with that AI. If it has no other interaction, so, for example, no other information incoming, well, it can only do its only task because that's how it's programmed.
Yeah.
You could... So, here's another thing people would say. You could feed it, like, random numbers, and these numbers could define manager behavior. But it's... So, that could happen. So, what I'm arguing is that by random chance, let's say you have a random self-improving AI, it could just randomly develop the skill of a manager by chance. And that's great. It just went outside the box.
Yeah.
Right? This is an analogy people use, AI in a box, where what we're talking about, the AI in the box is the cashier and it can only do it. But it could escape the box if you have an algorithm that, for example, based on a random chance, it just creates a new instructions. That is very plausible.
Yeah.
And that could happen. Yes.
But that is basically just like a Russian roulette sort of situation. In terms of like rolling the dice is roll the die rather.
Yeah. Right. It rolled a die and it happened to get an output that we expected or
benefited us or benefited it.
Right, exactly. But it didn't create that information.
Okay.
It didn't write the instructions on how to get that random number. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, this random number is very abstract. It basically, this random number represents the instructions of becoming that manager, for example.
Yeah. So that instead of creating new instructions, it's basically a combination or a sequence that was generated from the previous information. Is that sort of logical to say?
Yes.
Okay,
correct.
That's fair. That's fair then. That's absolutely fair.
And also it could, like I said before, it could also create that information by random chance. Based on those numbers.
Okay.
But based on these instructions. Which is really weird, right? And
it is,
basically, it's very strange. But I don't think it's not a plausible solution.
Yeah.
Because there's a very large number of possibilities
Of course.
where it could fail.
To make it even more abstract, and I think it's fair to even make this parallel, but it's almost like Darwinistic evolution, where if let's say a bird species is is landed on an island, and it's kind of constituted by lava, magma, and it has to call for traits that will allow said species to survive. It's not to say that like the species itself has looked for particular it hasn't looked for particular traits to survive. It's just how evolution works, where the genetic combinations and sequencing will spit out a random trait, and if the trait happens to be what is necessary to survive in said region, it'll reproduce and dominate said region.
That is an awesome point. So you're basically saying like the random chance of, genes from mother to mother and father into the child could create that random chance of learning something new to get them out of the lava?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
So yeah, that's evolution, right? And
Exactly.
we have experienced this as human beings. So this is an interesting point you bring up. So can AI evolve?
Yeah, and
Yes,
I think
it can.
yeah, exactly. Artificial intelligence can definitely evolve,
Short answer.
especially with how we yeah. Even with I think even with like the initial premise of what is AI, and even if we entertain the realm of like, general AI, the full scope of the answer, I think, as you stated, is yes.
So it can evolve, which means so therefore, as long as it keeps evolving, and it's like million years CPU time ahead of our time, then eventually it'll exhaust every permutation. Of every genetic combination, for example, to create new information.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the problem. In our evolution, we take genes from our mother and father, and based on this is where our analogy breaks down. Mother is A in this example, paradigm A,
Yeah.
right? And the father is paradigm B. Paradigm A and B can create paradigm slightly A and slightly B. It's
Okay.
not new information. It's based on it's combinations of both of the parents
Yeah.
that create that. It might seem to us that it's a new information,
But it's not.
but it's never that's totally wrong, because we have never created that new information to begin with.
Exactly, and to even facilitate what you're saying, so we're using 1A and 1B, thinking we're going to create 1C. Rather, not even. Even that is sort of like a combination of 1A, 1B. When we combine 1A, 1B, we're not going to get 2C or 2AB. That's new information that is not available from 1A, 1B.
Right. It's not. So C in this example, guys, just to clarify, is no combination of A and B. C is completely abstract. It is totally new. This is, for example, how we write AI right now. We can sort of predict what it's going to do because we kind of program the output of what we want.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly how it does it, but we kind of know what its output can be, and sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
But it's basically that. We kind of know. This C argument that we're using is undistinguishable to us. It is a completely new parameter. Now, I'm not saying that these can't happen. It's that the exhaustion of the C parameter. I don't think it can happen necessarily. It's hard to articulate this. I think as the podcast go, we'll get more into it.
Yeah,
But,
it's tough because, like, in most cases, especially on surface level, you would think that genetic sequencing will allow for A plus B, which equals C, but that's not really the case. It's really just taking portions and constituents of what makes A and a little bit of what makes B to make what is not really C. It's really just a little bit of AB.
Right, yeah. And that's not to say that might not be useful. That is very useful. Like I said in the beginning of the podcast, A and B alone could create every thought, for example, a human can have.
Mm-hmm.
It can be that complex. I'm not saying that it could. I might not agree that it can, but it could,
Yeah.
I think.
The realm of
Based on-
possibility is huge.
Right. But I don't know if I actually agree with what I just said. Let me...
Yeah.
See, when I articulate it...
Yeah, if you want to
Yeah.
restart, go ahead.
Okay, so basically... Oh, man, I'm starting to draw blanks. So A
That's
and
fine,
B...
it's fine. Yeah.
A and B cannot create this completely new variable, C.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, A and B, it could essentially create information that's very useful that we think is C, but is not C.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I want to clarify.
Yeah,
This
because
C variable
Yeah.
is so out of our scope of knowing.
yeah,
Because
because
we actually don't know it.
exactly.
We are in the system as well.
Exactly.
You know, us humans, we're in a system as well. We can't possibly imagine the fourth dimension
Mm-hmm.
because we are in a system of three-dimensional space-time or space dimensions. We're in four-dimensional, with time. But yeah, we can't possibly imagine. We can't see it because we're constrained.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for example, the fourth dimension, it's something we can talk about. We can do mathematical problems in the fourth dimension and, n dimensions up. But we cannot know. We cannot see. We cannot perceive.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
for the AI, it could do all the problems in the fourth dimension and plus, right? Because we have computers that do it today.
Mm-hmm.
It can do it, but it doesn't actually know about the fourth dimension. To it, it's just abstract. It's just a number, basically, to the AI. It
Yeah.
doesn't know about, how many... Well, it could tell you, like, let's say the sides of a fourth dimensional cube, for example,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't know what that looks like, kind of thing. It can only infer based on the information it is solved.
So
very-
to facilitate what you're saying in context that is hopefully applied, it's almost like how in life when we try to proceed in such a way that kind of explains why bad things happen, it's not as like sometimes the physical reality of what happens is so kind of dull and sort of just like so cut and dry that we don't think that it is this sort of this reality that we just don't want to believe it. And so to help us feel better, we try to explain it in ways that are often religious and philosophical. In this case, it's sort of just how like with the information that is available to said artificial intelligence that is trying to explain what is a fourth dimensional cube, it is just information that is connecting and sequencing from what is previously fed to it as information that is of the fourth dimension. And while it is not necessarily trying to create new information, it is just inferring information based upon the information it was fed before. It doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. It's just theoretical breakdown.
Yeah. But let's also give it some credit. All of the information that it infers could be all that we ever care about.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that, and I think that is very plausible, and that is very likely to happen, actually.
Mm-hmm.
A general AI could conceivably do everything we can do, but it can't. It's more of the abstract, like I said, I'm arguing. I'm trying to go outside of the system
Yeah.
to attack this.
Mm-hmm.
It could the general AI could be at a point where it could tell us almost about everything we would want to know or ask. But when we do that, we have to realize, I think, that what's important is that it just has a lot of more brain hours than we do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, given, I honestly, believe this. If we had just amount of humans doing the work and the same amount of time it takes, well, we would be equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Humans would be equal to AI and everything it could ever be. Like I said, but we don't have that. We will never have that.
Mm-hmm.
Computers are much more efficient.
Yeah.
Just creating biological creatures is not so efficient.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, if, that's an obvious case, I think, to everyone. If because we created the AI initially, right? Couldn't we then create the output?
Mm-hmm.
That's another question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I finished my thought.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting because when it comes down to, like, the reason why I am personally really interested in artificial intelligence is because it sort of, how I approach it is not necessarily in a way that is considerably general AI. I just like how AI itself can take care of functions that we ourselves are like, okay, for example, let's say if I want to go through my trash that I have on my desktop in terms of information, do I really want to get rid of all information that is available, all the data? Not really. That's inefficient by any means because I would like to keep information that is beneficial for the future. So I would like to construct something that would allow me to have artificial intelligent program where it will learn what I'm deleting. Therefore, it will take care of what I'm deleting on a regular basis, so I don't have to waste any more time doing that. I am feeding information with what I'm deleting so that it can learn how to delete the information that I would like deleted on its own time. Therefore, I don't have to waste my time anymore.
Yeah, we give AI tasks that we burden ourselves with.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting thing that we might be able to talk about at the end, but I'll kind of preface it. I don't want to get off topic, but I'll preface it just to keep it in the air. What like kind of jobs AI is going to take?
Oh my god, yeah. That's scary. That's really scary. Yeah.
Like it has right now. You watched the Joe Rogan and Elon Musk podcast.
Yeah.
Talk about AI and that Elon Musk. I think I'm saying his name with an accent. Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the billionaire genius.
Mm-hmm.
He is very, very much afraid of AI, and I'm with him on that. I'm pretty much as afraid as you can get, but also a bit hopeful for our own species, I think.
Yeah.
We've dealt with problems in the past, nuclear warfare and stuff. By the way, guys, I'm not saying we'll have a solution. I don't know if we will. But we've dealt with some pretty hard problems in the past. But this is no like them. Mm-hmm. This problem is not like the others. Mm-hmm. And if we are not careful, if we are not talking about this, for example, in a podcast like me and you, and raising awareness,
yeah.
If we are not raising awareness, this will be the ultimate defeat of humanity. It will absolutely take us over.
Yeah.
If we are not careful.
Yeah, so that's basically the sort of overarching sentiment that Elon Musk has, as far as I understand from how he approached the topic in the podcast with Joe Rogan. And I definitely must say I do agree with the whole sentiment regarding the fear of AI and its progress going forward, mostly because let's say that artificial intelligence becomes sentient, right? And let's say,
well, what do you define sentient? Like aware?
Aware as well as self-aware, and basically the awareness of itself as well as its own quote-unquote life relative to the other lives that are involved as constituents. So in this case, let's say artificial intelligence of man, this is really very abstract, but let's say that artificial intelligence is a new species that we have created, right? And let's say that, for example, a computer that has been completely become the prototype of like a borderline general artificial intelligence species, where it right now it is that of a fetus, a yeah, comparable to that of a fetus, human fetus, where but because it's artificial intelligence, because it's computerized, it has a sort of exposure as well as a condition that allows it to grow exponentially. So in a year, it could be in terms of mental age as well as like a knowledge, that of like 50 years plus in just 1 year. And even that is quite, relatively speaking, limiting in terms of what potential it has as said artificial intelligence of general capacity, a general artificial intelligence of that time. I can understand why there is a fear, because let's say that particular subset of species, that basically artificial intelligence AIA, or yeah, AI number 1 was born and learned dramatically quickly, and it's come to the point where let's entertain the possibility that it can create new information. In the anomalous case that it does, is the new information that it creates, is it going to complement the desires as well as lives and functions of the human species? And I think that's what a lot of people are scared about. What if artificial intelligence reaches a point where it deems the human lives that basically it just deems human lives not quote unquote worthy to see?
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'll sort of let you take the spotlight now.
That is, yeah. I want to fearmonger a little more.
Yeah.
Continue your point.
Yeah.
Just before I, get to that. So you said the AI, if you give it 1 year, could get to the point of one humans of 50.
Yeah, let's say give or take 50 years
50
old.
50 years of one human.
Yeah.
It's right now, it is even scarier than that. Just at this point in time, it could. We probably, I would say, right now or within the next year, could, if we give artificial intelligence just 1 year, it could surpass billions of humans, all of their knowledge.
That's disgusting.
And the reason I say that is because you got to think about us humans, right?
Yeah.
What do we learn? Like, let's say, for example, in our calculus class that me and you are in, we all learn the exact same information. How we perceive it is different. How we experience it, different. But we're all fed the same input. So we're humans, we're very, very, if you really think about it, we're unbelievably inefficient.
Oh, of course. We're terrible.
What we really should do, if we want to be as optimal, is every student learns something completely different in the entire, completely different subject. Like, every human, like, for example, you learn math and I learn biology. Just two very different subjects.
Yeah.
And the discrepancy between my subject and yours is that of every other human. So that is an optimal way, right?
Of
then
course.
we could all share that information.
Yeah.
We become experts. But, we all learn, like I said, me and you are in the same classroom. We're fed the exact same input, but how we experience it is different. How we interpret it is different. This is also something I wanted to talk about. The AI that creates the combinations of A and B. We've used this analogy before. If you guys don't remember, about 30 minutes ago, I understand. But, any sort of information that A entails and any information that B entails, sorry for the voice crack, those two parts, they could basically describe a lot almost everything that we know of humans today.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, it doesn't account for experience,
Mm-hmm.
interpretation, stuff like that. It cannot account for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's uncountably many ways to experience something, I would say.
Yeah, of course.
You know, when you say the word awesome, just in my head, I think of a bottle of wine, a mouse, a keyboard, a phone case, and plastic in the ocean. You see how unbelievably disgusting that was? I've just described something that you've probably didn't even think that I would describe to you. And it's so random. Okay, these objects are sitting in front of me, except the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But point is that when you say something to me, I could completely have a different perception of what you said.
Yeah, of course.
The AI only has one perception. It could have multiple, yes, but could it account for all of our perceptions, our experiences? I don't think so. That might be way too much information for it to handle.
Yeah, because even though in terms of the realm of possibility, when it comes down to that of an AI, yes, it has the possibility of being able to account for information that is like in all directional expansion. It can accommodate and incorporate, yes, but does it have to? Not really. All it will do, or at least attempt to do, in the light of being as efficient as possible, it will pick the most correct choice, because why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it?
See, that's the thing, right? So it could be, it's very efficient, right? AI is very efficient, and that's why, I've been saying before, like, it is the potential to be that of billions of humans within a year, and probably way less, I'll be honest with you, than a year.
Yeah.
Giving AI 1 year is a nuclear holocaust
Yeah.
of disaster. I don't mean that, offensively.
No, yeah, and I completely get where you're coming from, because, like, when it comes down to artificial intelligence, again, if we use the abstract nature that it is, we have created a new species of potential sentience. We are sort of creating this again, abstract life form that can potentially supersede us. And that's the scariest part, because we don't know if our creation, and we can even compare it to, let's say, Frankenstein. Frankenstein was a doctor who was very obsessed with the idea of creating or reviving life. And just because he created a monster, which is commonly misrepresented as Frankenstein himself, but the monster that he created, just because he was the owner and as well as the life bearer of said monster, Frankenstein eventually met his own demise, because he didn't accommodate what sort of anomalies, as well as, like, the nature of the monster. The monster became he became the monster that Frankenstein was afraid of, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, because how Frankenstein treated the monster was very inhumane. And
right,
it's sort of just how we can sort of approach, and I very much emphasize sort of, but when it comes down to how we approach artificial intelligence and the potential of it being a new species that could maybe one day obtain sentience, I think that's important to consider, because if artificial intelligence becomes aware of itself and it eventually develops emotions, depending on how we treat it going forward after that point of self-awareness and emotional awareness, it will affect how artificial intelligence will view us. Just because we're the pioneers of its own species of life doesn't necessarily mean that it is to bow down to our every beckoning. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know if I have to add to that. I think you said that well.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just want to see what you're saying.
Oh, okay. I wanted to bring up the AI in the box again.
Yeah.
And you know, many people believe, you can get out of the box on problem in AI.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to give I finally want to give what's it called? An analogy
Yeah.
for it. An anecdotal. How about if you give it a really hard problem and then you create a box around the box? So for example, let's this is a big anecdotal. And this probably has flaws and I'm okay with that. I've just thought of it now.
Yeah, of course.
So let's say what I mean by really hard problem, for example, encryption. AI is still limited by what it just because it's AI, it can't solve problems faster. There are fundamentally difficult problems to solve. This is called, if you guys want to research this, definitely, and if you haven't heard of this, P versus NP.
Mm-hmm.
These are problems. There are some problems in this. You can think of P versus NP as a Venn diagram. The problems in NP are so difficult. There are even layers to this of how difficult, exponentially difficult problems, that there's not enough energy in the universe to even fulfill an atom of a percentage compared to the atoms in the universe that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
To the power of itself. So what I'm saying is, like, there are problems like that because, this P versus NP, it encapsulates different exponential layers of difficulty. So I don't even know if we could design a problem like that. But anyways, so we secure this AI in this box and we lock it with a key. This key is a very difficult problem. And the only way it could get out is if it solves this difficult problem. Now, here's the awesome part of this. If the AI gets out, it has solved a problem that should be impossible to solve.
Mm-hmm.
If it can't get out, well, that's good for us, right? But here's the thing, like, let's entertain the fact that it can get out. Yeah. What is the intricate problems of that? So there's a problem called traveling salesman problem. I won't get into detail, but I'm just an example of a problem that is very difficult to solve. Finding the shortest path on a map. Google does this all the time. Yeah. These are actually really difficult problems that it has to solve. That's why sometimes, when you type in Google Map, a location Google Map, and it takes you this weird wonky way, and you're like, I know a faster way than this. Yeah. Google cannot even fathom to account for the possibilities of traffic that could cause traffic.
Yeah.
It can't even imagine, the difficulties in measuring that. Yeah. For example, a volleyball was thrown on the street and then it has spikes on it, and if you run it over, your car dies. Yeah. Like it can't know that. Exactly. And I'm not saying that Google should account for that things. I'm not saying that it should account for those things. What I am saying is it could only it's best interpreted with limited information. If we try to give it like, oh yeah, a volleyball with spikes could hit the road, account for that, here's a probability of that happening, account for that, Google Maps, it would trundle on forever trying to...
Yeah, it's too much.
...permute a path. Yeah. Right, it's too much. So, I want to go back a little bit more, but did you have something to say?
No, I was going to say, to facilitate what you're saying, it's sort of just like, it's, in terms of any sort of online reference that you search up, there's a baseline capacity of what it sort of is prepared to answer, prepared to provide as an answer. All the sort of the modifications or adjustments to the answers that we would like to entertain any abstract discussion or entertain any abstract possibilities is just like, it's a little too much to ask just for the sake of being abstract. Right. But yeah, go ahead.
To give a very applicable definition of the exponentially hard problems there is,
Mm-hmm.
you can think of Sudoku. I encourage you, if you don't know what Sudoku is, to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
You're familiar with Sudoku, right?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
not good at it, but yeah, I'm aware of it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah. So you can think of it as, so you ask a question, how fast can I solve this Sudoku board?
Mm-hmm.
But now, instead of a 9, is it 9 by 9 default?
I believe so.
Okay, let's pretend that it is, if it's not. I want you to find the fastest way to solve a 100 by 100 Sudoku board.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is actually beyond what we're capable of doing today. I think. Don't quote me on that, but believe so. I would love to let you guys know in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
I'll research it after this.
Mm-hmm.
But now we want really exponentially hard. I want to lock it with a key. Basically solve this this is very abstract, but solve this Sudoku board that is a Google by Google in dimensions.
Yeah.
So very large number. A Google is 1 followed by 99 zeros or 100.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1 followed by 100 zeros. By a Google that is an unfathomably large Sudoku board.
Yeah.
And I'm not asking you to solve it. I'm asking you what's the shortest way to solve it.
Yeah.
That is a very different question than solving it.
Of course, because there's an implication. Like, solving it is already an implied premise. It's just you have to be quick, efficient.
Yeah, you gotta find. Not only do you have to solve it, but you have to basically loop through. So right now we think this is Sudoku is a very hard problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's no efficient way. There's no shortcut other than like trying out a lot of iterations of it.
Yeah, combinations.
So right. So in order to find the quickest path, not only would we have to solve that board once, but probably anywards from 75% of a Google, we would have to solve it that many times, at least,
Yeah.
to find the shortest path. It's unbelievable. It's crazy. And this is why I love AI and all this stuff. Because I love, asking these questions. And please, anyone in the comments, if you're listening, let me know and let Freddy know any questions or anecdotals or anything. They're fun to talk about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or if you disagree with what I'm saying, I would love to talk to you about that. But yeah, these are examples of sort of problems that, we could lock it with. And it can't if it gets out of the box, then it has solved a problem that we couldn't even conceive of. And then at that point, if that's even, I don't think that's possible, but if that is, then my argument would break down.
Mm-hmm.
If it's able to even so people would say it could get out of the box without solving that problem. This is why I added that extra part. Is now, so this is really important because I think that is possible. It could, circumvent the code. Basically, like this function that's like, has it solved it yet? And then instead of it saying false, you make it say true, and then you get out of the box. Not like that. So we have this system, let's say our programming architecture, that, it's, the AI's in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another system outside of it that is not based on programming architecture, that the AI cannot even compute. Mm-hmm. That's the other box that limits or sees if it got out of the initial box. See, this is something I've been dying to tell people about. How about that? And I think it's plausible to do that. For example, maybe. This is really hard to find an example, actually. Like, what is something we could surround it with that is not computable? We know some things in mathematics, but, like I said, we would have to surround it with another hard problem.
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't know if I can come up with a tangible example like, chemicals or something. I think that's also computable.
Yeah. It's tough.
We're talking really abstract. Yeah.
It's tough because realistically speaking, like when something comes to thought, chances are, and logically speaking, we will try to find a way that if it is tangible, we will try to make sense of it. And if we can make sense of it, pieces start to connect in such a way that allow us to break things down so that we can better understand it and to create a problem that is unattainable to be solved. That's very tough. That's very
That's
very
crazy,
tough.
right?
It's very tough.
That's
Yeah.
good. It's gonna be on the limits of what we're capable of doing, I think.
Yeah.
I wanted to try to create a quote really quick.
Yeah.
The people that the things that design AI are best imprisoned by it. Is that cool?
It's pretty interesting.
I think we'd be prisoners of AI if we don't put this strong key box, we'll call it. This
Oh
is
no,
my
I
analogy,
wouldn't
the
be
strong key
surprised.
box.
I wouldn't be surprised if we do eventually become the slaves of AI, simply because, like, what's not to say that we are inferior beings compared to that of the first fully primed sentient artificial intelligence life, you know? What's to say
Yeah.
that we are not going to be inferior because well, it's not to say that, but it's just speaking to the higher potential of what the first sentient artificial intelligent life, what is their baseline and ceiling compared to that of the typical human of that time. And if artificial intelligence is reliably and I guess frequently that much superior than that of a human life in terms of all avenues and functions, it's pretty scary because,
It is scary, yeah.
like, it's
I think
yeah.
it would get to that point, honestly.
I wouldn't be
But remember,
surprised.
People might think like I'm contradicting myself. I may have, based on the way I'm articulating my point, I may mess up. But what I'm saying is really like to kind of put a nail in the coffin here, is that I think it's capable of doing about everything we can do.
Yeah.
But I don't think it can experience it the way we do. It can't know how we perceived it. It's things like that. My points before that I've made at other times to support what I just said as well. I wanted to bring this up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, this is a question to you now, we're turning the tables a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think love is computable? In other words, can love be described by an algorithm? Essentially ones or zeros. Trues and false, no ambiguity.
So I will open up with a context, and I want to see if you see it as computable to answer your question. So
Sure, yeah.
I see love as just empirically, it is just a state of emotions that are induced by chemicals in our brain, a mix of dopamine and whatever else may be involved when we experience euphoric states of mind whenever we have our paradigm shifts, that of romanticism or love. And I believe empirically that is the case. And however other iterations or interpretations are that of philosophical and psychological or even social interpretations, which I get. I completely give and yield to those discussions, but I'm not necessarily going to say that they are empirical. It's more of a subjective understanding that is of love. The closest thing that we have empirically explaining what love is, as far as I know, is that of the chemical reactions that transpire in the brains of said individuals who are loving and in love. That being
That are
said,
experiencing that.
exactly, yeah. So in that case, yes, I think it is of particular capacity to simulate or even compute love, but I believe it is necessary for neurotransmitters as well as like other biological functions that are transpiring in the brain, which is bioorganic. I think right now, to simulate what love is or compute what love is, those particular variables and constituents are to be necessitated. I don't know of any particular empirical computational premise which is outside of the baseline of bioorganic exchanges that facilitate the chemical products that emulate and simulate that of love. I don't know anything that is purely just empirical without bioorganics involved.
So you're. It's kind of hard to follow. So would
Basically,
you say it is computable?
It's computable, yes, but if we're gonna put it in the perspective of artificial intelligence where no bioorganics are involved, I don't know if love can be computed by a computer, and I say that
Like an algorithm.
an algorithm because I think, in all intents and purposes, and this is kind of going into the more abstract discussion of what love is by philosophy, sociology, and or psychology. I think, generally speaking, outside of biological templates, love is a very anomalous state of mind. I think it's very anomalous.
Yeah, I would. I think I stand where you are, actually. I think it could be computable, but it can't be experienced by an AI.
Yeah.
Because there's a very large number of things there. Like how I experience love and how you experience love. Let's say we both like this girl.
Mm-hmm.
We feel, everything in the brain that chemically happens is exactly the same. Let's just give it that. But how we experience it is different.
Yeah.
That's the line. So if we want to define computable as that, is love computable by an algorithm? It could be.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking about the experience as well, and we'll call that fully computable,
Mm-hmm.
I would say no. I would say no then.
Yeah, and it even goes back to our previous discussion about how, in full capacity, artificial intelligence can create a window or a space that is expansive in every direction, but it will find the most efficient answer. And in terms of asking a computer or an artificial intelligent life, can you compute or give me an answer of what love is? Based upon previous paradigms it was fed, it will give you an answer that is the most logical one based on what it thinks love is. But
Right.
can it experience what love is? Not necessarily until there is an anomalous sort of function. And let's even cite a video game. Have you heard of the video game Detroit Become Human?
Oh, unfortunately not.
Okay,
I would love if we. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not gonna spoil anything, but Too Long Didn't Read. But it explores this idea that androids as well as artificial intelligent life forms that take place as templates being androids or any sort of robotics. They look like humans, but they're androids. The premise is that people are sort of in this time where androids are this sort of you can basically rent or purchase this thing that looks like a human and it will carry out functions for you. Therefore, let's say if I'm a single father in the future and my wife wasn't available or we had discrepancies and it just turned into a situation where things didn't work out, and I have taken upon my duty to be a responsible parent and kept the child, I can potentially, in the premise of Detroit Become Human, purchase an android artificial intelligence to help me take care of my child and fulfill a motherly figure role, so that my child has that contrasting perspective, so that just because my real wife, quote unquote real wife, but just in the event that because my real wife is gone and out of the picture, doesn't want anything to do with us, it becomes a situation there where the artificial intelligence, the android, is fulfilling the role so that the child's development is not compromised. And that's sort of the premise that Detroit Become Human can provide initially. and it grapples with this idea: what happens when these androids, these artificial intelligent figures, become sentient? What happens when they have emotions? What happens when they realize that at a baseline before their self-awareness, they're kind of just like slaves to humanity?
That's yeah. I think so if I were to entertain that,
Yeah.
these androids, they would become aware
Yeah.
of they would at one point become aware. Let's say if we give them benefit of self-learning, they would be able to figure that out eventually in their whatever CPU time is. But I think that's what I would say. I don't know if I can add to that more.
No, I think
it's
very
it's
interesting.
a good example.
Yeah.
It's a really good. It's a movie.
No, Detroit Become Human is a video game, and it's
Oh, right.
I think his name is David Cage or something, where he's the director of like Beyond Two Souls, or basically his gist, his gimmick is that he creates these almost like these 3D, very great, beautiful looking 3D, almost like something visual novels. They're almost like visual novels if you've ever played those.
I've seen a few. They're really awesome. I like that.
Yeah, it's almost like they kind of, it's like an interactive movie basically. That's how I describe Detroit Become Human. It's an interactive movie where you pick choices, and those choices, especially in Detroit Become Human, will have heavy consequences.
Yeah, I would agree with those consequences. Yeah. What a situation you'd be in if the freaking Android you purchase starts questioning everything. It's like, oh god, I didn't even account for this.
Yeah.
And that's another huge thing. People like for example, Sam Harris, and I think I forgot his name. His last name starts with a Y. They did an awesome podcast on AI. Everyone should hear it. They really did an excellent job.
For sure.
One of them is an AI expert.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, so it's really cool. So he brought up a point is like, we cannot possibly account for what AI can do, so we cannot even attempt to subject it to this rule set. And I've kind of did that in a way, but I think it's important to realize, disclose. I want to disclose this. I'm not an expert. I am a student, and I know kind of how AI works from online resources and my own research.
Yeah.
But as far as I know is, I think it's interesting when we start putting things in anecdotals. We try to. We can't leave a question as heated and, intricate as this to, general AI is so insane. It's so beyond our scope of humans that we shouldn't even discuss what it's capable of, because we're not even capable of discussing what it is capable of. And like I said, I don't believe in the C argument. So before, like the A plus B equals C, I don't believe it can create C out of thin air. Yeah. I think it's all combinations. And these combinations, we're in the same system. We possibly couldn't have thought of it, but if we had the time and the same computability with respect to time, we can. We designed the AI, and it is in its system that we designed it, and we have our own system. So I think, in parallel, yeah. But, we're not talking about things that are impossible. We are talking about practical AI. Can it be dominant and stuff like that? And these are all very good questions. Yeah. And we should discuss and explore anecdotes like the one I talked about before. I think that's interesting. I want to bring that up possibly. Yeah. And see what kind of answer I can get.
Yeah, and like I definitely am of the, to basically break it down into a much more tangible idea of like what we mean when it comes down to A plus B not equaling C. It is that of equaling percentages of what is AB. Meaning, let's say A plus B equals 30% A, 70% B. But that doesn't
weights.
exactly. But it doesn't mean that is C. C is, as we've noted, a completely new paradigm of information. It's not going to happen, and theoretically speaking, it shouldn't happen. A plus B will result in percentages of what A plus B. It's varying percentages as you noted. There's a balancing act. There's weight to each variable of the final product, or the final sum, rather.
One more thing to add to favor the full AI believers. I just want to put this out there. I don't think I have an answer, but I just thought of it. What if everything can be described as percentages of A and B? Then what we're arguing here, doesn't mean anything. Yeah, what I'm arguing doesn't mean anything, but clearly I don't believe that. I believe there are new information that A and B doesn't contain at all.
Yeah.
For example, I think this might be an example, but philosophy or experiencing life, things like that. Like, I know I keep talking about experiencing and all this
No,
stuff.
but experiences are important. It's also part of it. It fills the cracks and voids that we have in our respective lives, and it is our way of rationalizing what we kind of don't know yet. And when we have empirical information that supersedes that sort of rationalization, then the new paradigms will take over, and it'll be that much larger in terms of scopes compared to, let's say, paradigm A plus B. For example, paradigm C plus D will incorporate a better version of, respectively, C being a better version of A and D being a better version of B. It's not to say that they're not throwing away what paradigm A plus B was about. It's just a better version of C plus D,
right?
Continuing a new generation of information.
Right, and yeah, exactly that. I would say also that I'm drawing a blank.
It's fine.
We've been talking for a bit. This is great.
Yeah, no, it's a good discussion, man.
I think I was a decent in explaining my stance.
No, yeah, you did very well. Honestly, it was interesting. The whole concept of general AI it's very, very tough, because I think, generally speaking, and I've already probably noted this at least once throughout this discussion, that general AI, I think, is what a lot of people are scared of, because they're afraid of artificial intelligence becoming, one, sentient, and two, outside of our control, because we are afraid of something that is exhibiting behavior that we are not aware of, and even
we didn't have the capacity to think of.
Exactly. When it starts to construct a level of possibilities, or a realm of possibilities that we ourselves did not programming in originally, that's when we sort of realize that we have created something that clearly is beyond ourselves. And it's going to be interesting if that possibility, the realm of general AI, if it has any sort of truth to it, if there is any sort of applicable truth to it, it's going to be like, yes, there is the fear, but it's also a great curiosity on my end to see how will humans ultimately decide to live with respect to if general artificial intelligence takes a direction of being fruitful in its own life. That's going to be interesting, because it sort of challenges our original paradigms of life, and it makes us sort of have this group identity, this new forged, it's not new forged, but it's this overwhelming group identity of being humans, being now versus that of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's a great point. Also, I wanted to add to what you were saying. I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Could it be that all of what we're saying is just part of not like all of what we're saying, but what we're saying as in AI couldn't have we couldn't have had the capacity to think that AI can do all of this. Isn't that part of like the human condition? Like we are not specialized really. We have to breathe. We have to maintain homeostasis. We have to drink water. We have to eat food. And we'll play a chess game at the same time. You've heard of Go, beating the best chess player in the world, the AI.
Yeah.
So what I always think about is that this person exists outside of that game. He didn't devote all of his resources, wasn't completely devoted into the game. And I'm not saying even if they were that he would have won. I'm not arguing that. I'm just arguing that we aren't specialized. We don't have that ability. And AI does have that ability. And also another thing, can AI go as far as to... So everything underlying our computer architecture is zeros and ones. It's like the existence of like electrons in a circuit, for example, or not. Could it go as far as checking if a proton passes through or a neutral thing? Like, can it go beyond zeros and ones? I don't think so.
That's interesting.
Or can AI surpass Turing machines? These are weighted topics. We will cover them, I'm sure, in the future.
Yeah.
But if you have anything else to add, I think I'm all good for the discussion.
Yeah. So as a closing note, basically to give preview to what you're saying, it's sort of just saying how I see that possibility being spun is that it isn't going to happen in the generation of artificial intelligence. And if it does, at least not within the first generation.
Right, yeah.
If that possibility does come into fruition in real life, it's mostly because there was a deviation or a genetic mutation in the realm of artificial intelligence itself. And
that random spike of new information, for
yeah,
example?
Yeah, exactly.
But that new information is not C, it's just we didn't think about it.
Exactly. And eventually, all the different possibilities that will spin, even, yes, while in the realm of being AB, and this goes more into the abstract direction of general AI, if it becomes sentient and alive, who are we to say that we cannot... There won't be genetic mutations within the realm of AI that will accidentally create C, and that it's just based upon our history, regardless of
our human condition of not being able to know. I think
exactly.
Yeah, but I understand that. I agree with you, but that's the problem is I don't want to stop there.
Exactly.
Just because we can't. Let's try to find anecdotes. Let's try to find examples of why it can't be the case, why it can't find C.
Yeah.
And, as far as I know right now, AI, it simply cannot create C because it's based on weights.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
If you look at that image, we'll have images throughout the... Well, I'll have at least one image. I'm not guaranteeing what you're going to edit. That's up to you. But this one image of how AIs look... the input layer. If we just take a look at that, that's basically an AI. We don't know what's in hidden. People might ask, why is it hidden? Layer 1, 2, and 3. We don't know what the combinations of the input layers are. That's why.
Because there's so many.
And then hidden layer 2 is a combination of hidden layer 1 stuff. Or input layer stuff, it could be as well. That's also important to note.
Yeah,
there could be that bidirectional, or that it dissects. So an input layer could go straight to hidden layer 2. It's possible, I think. But even though it's still abstract, it's convoluted. They call these actually convoluted neural networks. Or no, concurrent neural networks. I might have got confused.
Either way,
yeah, you see,
what you're sort of at least trying to allude to is the fact that, like, when it comes down to this particular image, there's no sort of exact path that it has to go. It can there's the amount of like life that it has in terms of possibilities is sort of reverberating, and like anything can happen in this sort of diagram, and it can spin what appears to be there's a limit. There's a limit of information, but what we can digest and understand theoretically, it almost feels limitless.
Right, exactly. These I want you to actually take a look at my screen really quick.
Yeah, I'm looking at the image.
Entertain.
Yeah.
So if you look at my screen, I'm going to just kind of show this with my mouse. I'm sorry you guys can't see. But basically what I'm doing is, how about, these input layers could be a very long list of input layers, right? How about, this is where C is, right here. It's outside the image.
Yeah.
It's outside of all of the input layers. So this is just to give a visual. So C is over here. How can it create C? I don't see that.
Exactly. It's anomalous.
This is all the AI knows. It's its input layers and the combinations of it.
Yeah.
And it gives us an output based on that. How could it have C? It can't. With this current AI technology.
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, general AI, if we define it to understand and know C, not buying it. I'll definitively say I'm not buying it.
It's tough because like it sort of entertains the possibility of what is abstract. It's not, to me, as far as I understand the topic, it's not viable to say that it can create C when everything involved in the said network right here is just A plus B.
Yeah. And trillions of other letters, that is not C, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of what I really like to talk to people about when I have this discussion. Because I don't deviate too much from what most people think. I am afraid of AI. I know it's... Trust me, I know what it's capable of.
It's
I'm
scary.
A programmer.
It's scary. Yeah.
I already know the things it could do that my conception as a human being, I'm afraid of. And, it could do things I haven't even thought of, which are going to be probably worse.
Yeah.
But I'm not pessimist. I'm not completely pessimistic. I think if we do divert resources to, understanding AI more, I am planning to go into the field eventually. I am interested in how it turns out.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, like, to say the least, to like encompass why we even dived into the discussion. There's just so much of that we can target in terms of information as well as like possibilities, and
right, yeah.
Even though yes, it is fear-inducing in terms of like what we don't know of how artificial intelligence itself, like, what is the trajectory of its evolution? We can speculate, but in terms of applicable sort of reality, we don't know yet. And are we ever going to know? Right now, I personally don't have an answer to that.
Yeah, neither do I. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and that's why it's interesting. It's an ongoing journey.
By all means, I probably didn't get to everything I thought of. I only talked about the things I thought of, and
of course, yeah.
We specifically talked about general AI, but there's other ones.
Yeah.
That we didn't cover. And yeah, I think that's a good place to end. If you guys enjoy the podcast, you gotta give it to us. You gotta tell us if you didn't enjoy it. If you want to fight our opinions, we're happy to entertain it, I think, for some point.
Yeah, definitely.
I won't speak for you, but I'll entertain it for however long. As long as it's a fruitful, meaningful discussion. If it's, obviously, I won't get into that. But yeah, if you would like to have any other words.
Yeah, I mean, like, as long as feedback is available, and like, I think both of us, we prefer to have been challenged in terms of our paradigms respectively than not be challenged, because to have our paradigms challenged, that means they're there is a logic that is to be superior, and if a logic is superior, that means that logic should theoretically be better. And why wouldn't we want better logic, you know?
Yeah, I would love for people to dissect my arguments and stuff, because I want to better prepare for that in the future. You know,
Exactly.
it's good. It's really good for that.
Yeah.
And just disclosure again, I'm a student, last year in college, or for my bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Don't have unlimited experience in this, but I think we just wanted to talk about it. That's all.
Exactly.
I'm not telling you what you should believe or not. Me and Freddy here, we're just discussing what we believe. You know, it's really important that we say that here, because I don't want you to think that I'm telling you this is how it is.
No, yeah, of course, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, man, it was good.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for tuning in.